the biggest mistakes that foreign buyers make, and how can I avoid them?
Yeah, that's always a tricky one. There's so many things that can come into play. But I think when looking to buy a property in France, the main thing to remember is that it's France. They will have their own ways of doing things. People will be different, the culture, a lot of ways, how things are handled, how things are discussed. So it can be very tricky sometimes knowing where to fit with all of that, and just remembering, don't expect the procedures to be the same than they are in your home country. And I think that can be a bit tricky sometimes. It can help getting advice from people who've done it before and who might be able to relate to what you're going through, and they might be able to advise you on those. At the same time, I would just, it can be a little bit tricky. I'd just say be wary where you're getting your information from. I know there are a lot of online groups of people who give advice between themselves, but sometimes it's not necessarily correct advice, or it's just advice that goes around within those circles, but haven't actually come from a outside French source, if you see what I mean. I find that having been brought up and gone to school in France up until I was 18, and having French family, a lot of the times, well, some of the advice that sometimes I see on those forums is not what a French person would advise you to do. So I think that can be really tricky in terms of making sure, like I said, just checking the source of the information that you're relying on. If you're not sure, like I said, different people obviously we at FrenchEntrée can help with that. Notaires, like official professionals, might be able to help you a bit more on it, but just be a little bit wary of that. Like I said, another mistake is to expect that everything will be translated in English for you. That's not always going to be the case. A lot of people do speak English in France, but it's not everyone. In some parts of France, people might not speak English at all. So it's if you do need any documentation translated, that is on you to help get them to help you with the process, whether it's someone through a hand-holding service or an official translator, but that will be for you to put in place. It's not the estate agent's obligation to translate the documents into the language that you want it to, because obviously that comes at a cost. But so just bear those in mind. If that's extra services you will need throughout the buying process, factor that in, and speak to your estate agent about it, saying I will want someone to translate it for me. Can you recommend someone, or what would be the best way to go forward with it? I would also, I think another mistake that sometimes people make is if you're looking, for example, to buy a permanent home rather than a holiday home, is to approach it in the same way. Those are two very different kinds of purchases. The area where I live, for example, there are a lot of holiday homes because it's an area that's quite easy to get to. It's in what used to be known as the Poitou-Charentes. So a lot of properties on the market will have been just holiday homes rather than permanent homes. And for example, a lot of them won't have any heating system, or they'll have a log burner, but that's it. So the heating system can be very basic, because obviously it's not needed to survive the winter months as you would if you're living there all the time. So yeah, that's quite important in terms of how the property will be, whether it's been used as a holiday home or a permanent home. So that's something you can ask when you're on the viewings as well, and it might involve more work to bring it up to the level of comfort you need to be living in it all year round. And also from a day-to-day perspective, if going somewhere on a holiday is going to be very different to if you're living there every day. On holiday, you might be quite happy being really rural, surrounded by fields and sunflowers and cows, and living a really spending a really relaxed time there. But the reality of somewhere like that, when you're living day in, day out, might be perfect for you, but obviously it means maybe driving further away to get your shopping done, if you need a hospital nearby, or if you need different things like that. So I think it helps not to romanticize too much the idea of living in France. Obviously keep those things in mind, that those reasons why you love going to France, keep that in mind, because those are going to be important, but also factor in the practical side of things and what you're going to need on day to day, so that you make the most of your time living in France.